Ladies, gentlemen, gamers of all ages, welcome to this special Tric Trac TV. Today we're going to be talking about Alien vs Predator, The Hunt Begins, from Prodos Games. Based, of course, on Ridley Scott's cinematic horror film, cult horror film, I want to say. This is an action-adventure board game with miniatures. Now, I say miniatures because miniatures are definitely what Prodos Games do best, and the miniatures in this game are absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous. Now, there are three factions. You, of course, have the Predators. So again, that's the one with the plasma launcher, if I'm not mistaken. You have the foolhardy yet very brave Marines. So there's the famous smart gun. And then we have, because no game called Alien would be complete without them, the aliens themselves. There are two types of alien contained within the box. You have the alien infant warrior and the alien stalker, who's a slightly lightly armored, faster version. Now, as I said, the miniatures are absolutely gorgeous, as you've seen. However, compared to other miniatures games, these do require some amount of assembly, and not just any amount. You will need a certain amount of savoir-faire to know how to manage these. You'll need, at the least, clippers, a modelling knife, and some glue. These all come in multi-part resin. They're not that hard to build, but you will need a little bit. Look up some guides. It's not very hard to do, but it's not like opening any other box you may have already opened. So, the material is absolutely gorgeous, from the miniatures to the actual floor tiles. So all the floor tiles represent the bowels of a ship that we're fighting over. There's all the corridors, there's the different rooms, the armory, the hibernation room. And what I find quite novel is that if you flip the tiles over, you go from normal, nothing too bad's happening, to, oh no, what's happening? Oh, red alarm version up. So you can have, depending on your ambiance, you can flip that over. Now, for the purpose of the camera, so it doesn't die, we didn't put the red ones in for this, but there you go. There are, of course, also the air vents, because no Alien game is complete without air vents. Now, what is quite funny is that the Marines can move through the air vents in this one, but we'll get onto that in the rules section. There are other units available to the game which can make use of the air vents a bit better, such as facehuggers, of course. They're not included in this game. You've got other things such as Ripley's loader, facehuggers, Pred aliens, I believe that's what they're called, which were released in the Kickstarter campaign. This is a Kickstarted game, which is, of course, coming out into retail now. And they will, I imagine, become available later, depending on the game's success. So, how does it play? It's an action point-based game with alternate activations. So, first thing you do is each player rolls 1d20, which is the base dice for the game. The highest player gets initiative and goes first. You activate model by model, and each model has 2 action points. Now, this is where the game gets a bit tricky, because most miniatures board games, they take something from wargaming, they take something from board gaming, they smush it all together, make it simpler, and that's what gives you a miniatures board game. With Alien vs Predator, however, they've definitely gone for more of a wargaming aspect. So, there's a rulebook, there always is, however, there's a lot of rules. The base system is very simple. Each model has 2 activations, alternate activations. You can get your head around that. However, each model has many actions you can use. Marines can move normally, they can move tactically, which gives them access to a sentry action, which is also an action. They can fire the grenade launchers. Predators can camo, they can vocal mimicry. That there's loads and loads of different actions. And if I must critique the material in this game, as beautiful as incomplete as it is up to this point, there are no gaming aids. There's no sheets that say, these are all the actions you can do if you're human, alien, predator. That is what's really needed, because there must be 10 to 15 actions per faction that you can use, and at least half of those will be unique to that faction. You do, of course, have move, shoot, close combat, interact, the basic stuff, but there's a load of things that you really need to be flicking through this book a lot, unless you photocopy it or they come out with a gaming aid, which hopefully they will. Anyway, each miniature has a stat line, a la war game. A little bit more complex, like I said. So there's one for the aliens, and here's one for your standard pulse rifle Marine. Now, the number at the top, that's your movement, so that's the amount of zones you move per movement action. Just line them up with the camera a little bit, there we go. Then you have your close combat, your range skill, your strength, your constitution, your leadership, your wounds value, and your armor. Now, all tests are done with the infamous D20s, the idea being that you have to get the score or lower to succeed. So if I wanted to make a ranged attack with a Marine, I'd need to roll a 14 or lower. However, As if with all good war games, there are modifiers, plenty of modifiers, and once again the gaming aid could come in very, very helpful here. The strength of the weapon modifies your armor save. If you're shooting through other models, it modifies your to hit value. There's loads of different environmental effects that can come into play. So I hope you're good at maths, basically. Not complicated maths, simple maths, but maths nonetheless. And once again, you'll be flicking through this a fair amount just to check that it's -2 for this or -4 for that. No biggie if you're used to this kind of gaming, but it may put some more board game orientated people off. So there's also the weapon stats, and there is a slight reminder on the back of the card for any specific skills for that model. So seeing as it's a model with a grenade launcher, there's your rules for the grenade launcher. Now what I must say is I don't know what happened with the alien card, but the text on it is nigh on unreadable. So hopefully this is just a preliminary copy that I've received, and they do correct that in the main one because that hurts my eyes. When you start the game, when you start every turn rather, the person that wins the initiative picks one of these. These are environmental cards. Now they come with a variety of effects. Oh, that's upside down. So here we have the broken steam valve, which hurts all enemies that are in or around air vents. Up, burning acid. Now, of course, you couldn't have aliens that died without having their acidic blood go everywhere. So when an alien does die, you roll a dice, and if you get a certain score, you drop an acid token, which I don't think I've got out, but there are acid tokens, which can hurt other models which are on the tile with you, or reduce the amount of models you can have in a tile. There's loads of other effects, from air circulation malfunctions to lighting malfunctions, internal dampeners, gravity, loads of things. This changes every turn, and it puts a little bit of spice into the game. I can tell you from experience that the turn when you line up a big shooting round with the Marines and all the lights go out, oh, that's not good. That did not turn out for my Marines very well. Anyway, on top of that, each faction has their specific deck. Marines, aliens, and there's also a Predator one, which I haven't got out here. These are tactics cards. You can play up to 2 per turn, so a turn is the time it takes for all players to activate all their units. These are special abilities that you can play at any time or when the card tells you to, which have some very powerful effects in there. Now, you always draw back up to 5. You have a hand of 5 at the beginning of your turn. You need to use them. You definitely need to use these cards. You can use up to 2 per turn, and there's no reason you should not, as long as the cards in your hand are right. If you don't like the cards you have in your hand, you can get rid of them at the end of the turn and draw more. Now, let's talk about the main mechanic of the game, because, and this is a bit of an odd one, it's incredibly thematic. It really injects the game with the atmosphere that you expect from the Alien films, and it's all based around that one dude with the motion tracker, oh, that's not good. And basically, none of the miniatures start on the table, which is weird for a miniatures game, right? But this is how it works. You don't start with them on the table, you start with these. Now these are ping tokens. These are basically what you get on the radar in this game. All miniatures start as one of these 2D tokens. And as the game goes on and you get line of sight to these tokens, you flip them over. Now, different tokens can be different things, and each faction has an interesting way of interacting with these tokens. Now, the aliens are the simplest. In the box game, they have 2 types of tokens, the Alien Warrior and the Alien Stalker. When you flip this over, you replace it with the corresponding model, and that is it. Aliens have a special way of getting back into camouflage if they need to, if they're on infested tiles, as they're called in this game, but that's about it. Marines are a bit more interesting. If you'll notice, the Marine tiles are all the same, and that's because Marines have a very interesting special rule called Team Tactics. When you flip over a tile, you can place any unused model in the space of that token, sorry. So basically, the alien player comes around the corner, he doesn't know if he's going to be in front of a flamethrower or a smart gun or just a basic standard Marine. Now, of course, he can kind of guess that based on the models that are already on the board, but it gives you a lot of tactical flexibility as the Marines. Now, the Predators are even more interesting. They have a specific token for each model, and every time you reveal one of these models, or one of these tokens rather, you flip it over and replace it with the exact corresponding figure. Now, the Predators only have 3 models on the board normally. However, they have 2 additional bleep tokens called vocal mimicry, which basically represents the Predators luring their prey into a trap. So if you see one of those, you flip it over, and it's just nothing. It was just a ghost, a blip on the radar. Now, going on to each faction's specific abilities, the aliens, are of course, they're the most numerous, they hit hard, they're aliens. You don't really need a description much of what they do, they're aliens. But they do have strength in numbers, they can be shot down fairly easily. But of course, there's always the double-edged sword of the acidic blood. Now, how can I put it? Their main advantage is because there's more of them, and this is an alternate activation game, once all the enemies, once all the other players, their enemies, have activated their models, they have free reign to do whatever they want, so they can have a better vision of things on the board later on. The Marines are slightly more numerous than the Predators, and they come with a large variety of weapons and generally rock your socks off when it comes to area of effect attacks. So if you're playing against Marines, don't bunch your models up because they will make you regret it, whether it be with grenades, the smart gun, the flamethrower, or many of the other tricks they can pull on you. And then we come to Predators, who are the only miniatures in the base game that have more than one wound. They're also the least numerous. Their weapons are deadly, incredibly horrible. Their cards are quite nice, but once again, once one or two of them go down, you're going to have a very, very hard time against a numerically superior foe. So hopefully you get the damage in before that happens. Now, as for moving around the board, it's your standard sort of spaceship. Anybody who likes Space Hulk, in fact, going back to the blip ideas, if you like Space Hulk, then this will seem instantly familiar to you. One thing that is quite interesting in this game, however, is the doors. Now, in previous games, doors are doors. You ask an architect to come along, he puts a door in, and that door stays there. Now, in this game, you have to imagine it more as a starship with multiple vaults, so to speak. When a starship gets damaged, they instantly just seal off the area where the damage is, that way no more damage. So the doors that are shown are the doors that are actually closed at the moment. When you open a door, you just take the token off the board. However, you can put a door, as a Marine player, no other player can do this, as a Marine player you can put a door back wherever you want on the board as long as it's adjacent to your tile. So if there's loads of aliens coming down at you, pop, you put a tile down and instantly you've got a bit of respite. Predators can open doors. Aliens can't. They have to break them down, which is actually quite a tricky task for them unless there's many of them. So they kind of have to gang up, rip the doors open, and then go through. So I find doors to be quite an interesting mechanic for this game, and definitely something the Marine player has to concentrate on, because one or two aliens, if you put a door straight down in front of them, it does use all your actions. So it's not as easy as that to do, but one or two aliens have a very hard time getting through doors. So something to remember. As I mentioned before, air vents in the game. Now, air vents allow you to travel from one area to the other. You need 2 moves to get through them, which is a basic run action for all your characters. That's all they can do if they run. It uses up both of your actions. However, it allows you to move very quickly around the board. So instead of taking 1, 2, 3, 4 move actions to get somewhere, it will take you 2. And that is basically it. You get line of sight, you can shoot if you're in the same tile, bearing in mind there's no inches or centimeters or zones. It's just the tiles. If you're on the same tile as someone, you count as being engaged with them. If I wanted to make a ranged attack, for example, with this dude here, or if rather, we'll get it in front of the camera, there we go. Up, here come the aliens. I would take, as I explained earlier, my stat card. Now this is the standard Marine, but the pulse rifle, the smart gun guy has the same stats, but we'll shoot with the pulse rifle anyway. Range skill of 14, I need a 14 or less to hit him, and I get an 18, so I've missed. Critical hit is a 1, critical fumble is a 20. If I'd have hit, so let's say I did hit on a 14 or whatever you like, 14 or under, it always works. You then take the alien's card, so that's an alien stalker. You check out, line them up for the camera, the figure's armor value, which is 10, and that's the score that he has to roll equal or under to beat it. However, once again, we have modifiers. Pulse rifles have a strength of 12. So anything, every point you go above 10 is -1 to their armor. Every point below is +1. So that's -2, so they need to get an 8 or less to succeed. Get a 14, it's over 8, so that alien dies, and that's it. This is where you do a test to see if the acidic blood goes anywhere, etc., etc. It's exactly the same if you were doing melee, so if that alien wanted to strike back, he has a close combat of 10, he gets an 11, so he would have missed. I'm not very good at hitting in this game, it seems. D20s are definitely my Achilles heel. But we'll say it hits. You take the strength of the weapon, which is 10, and Marine's armor value is 13. I get a 1, which is a critical success. Doesn't do anything for armor, but if you get that on a hit, it automatically wounds and they don't get an armor save. Once again, that is the basics of the game. A lot of the detail and all the thematics come from all the different actions you can use. The smart gun has special rules. The different type of aliens have special rules. The predators are the most complicated. All their weapons do a variety of things which you can then combine with your different tactical cards and the different environmental cards that come up. It's definitely a game you need to get your teeth into. It's not something I can really explain in a video or without making it horrendously long, though we are going to do a game with Monsieur Guillaume afterwards, so you might get a bit of gist if you watch through that. As thick as the rules are, once you get a grasp of them, the game really is quite quick and brutal, which is good. That's what we want from a game like this. So it plays through in about an hour for a standard mission. I myself got quite the buzz off this game. Like I said, maybe if you've watched a quick version of the trailer for this video, Alien vs Predator scared the living daylights out of me as a kid. I love H.R. Giger's work. I love Ridley Scott's work. It's definitely a cult horror film. It's the sci-fi genre in 90 minutes of epic blockbuster. And to find it now on a game with beautiful miniatures, that is my weakness, but there you go. It's great. It's really good. Now, I believe the price tag for it is something around 70 to 80 pounds sterling, which is a bit dear, but it is a big game, so it kind of lines up with the price for big games. The miniatures are, I mean, if you're just a casual miniatures gamer, this will blow you away. If you're not, then have fun painting these because they are excruciatingly well detailed. Like I said before, Prodos, they do miniatures and they do them well, and it shows through here. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Please come back if you want to watch the gameplay video with myself and Monsieur Guillaume. That will run you through a little bit more the details behind each miniature. But otherwise, I hope this has been informed. Look out for this one in stores when it launches very soon. And until then, take care.